So I essentially laid out that toxicity in video games is a thing. It seems to be even cool to be toxic. Liking things is horrible. Shitting on the thing that we all love and try to progress in is kind of the common culture in WoW nowadays. And I think that toxicity in video games is like toxicity in any other part of life. It is a byproduct of something else happening. You know, if you're frustrated for a long time, maybe in the workplace, in a relationship, at home, gaming, whatever it may be, that's kind of a sign, right? Like it's a sign of an unmet need, it's a sign of an unsolved problem, a source of frustration that keeps nagging, nagging, nagging. And personally, I believe that burnout is more because of unresolved frustration than anything else. We don't lose the passion to game. We move to a different game because this one is frustrating us for whatever reason, right? Like maybe you're failing to progress, maybe your team is shit, like or you feel like your team is shit and you're the only good player on it and stuff. Those are all legitimate frustrations, right? Like I've been on teams where I am hands down the best player. I'll tell you what, that is not a fucking fun team. I like being a best performer in a competitive environment, but when it's very clear I'm always going to be on top, untouchable, that's a bad place for me to be. So I think toxicity in video games is like toxicity anywhere else. It's a sign of an unmet problem. If you think about a wound, you hurt your fucking arm, cut yourself open, whatever. If you think about a wound, if you don't tend to it, if you don't address it, it doesn't go away. It festers. It gets worse. Maybe you hurt your finger. If you leave it long enough, you start touching your arm and it hurts. And I think toxicity is the same way, right? Like when we come to play WoW, whatever level we may play at, when we come to play WoW, we don't have bad thoughts. We don't think like, geez, I'm gonna go and hate my life for 30 minutes. Well, or 3 hours, maybe you got raid night. But that happens, right? Like we go to raid and somebody doesn't show up on time. We go to raid and somebody no call, no shows. We go to raid, somebody plays selfishly. We go to raid, bad calls are made. We go to raid, people waste time needlessly. They do the same thing over and over, and it gets frustrating. And for each situation is a tangible problem solving strategy, one that you can absolutely solve your issue. The problem is they don't often get employed. They don't get people solving the problem of, somebody showing up late for raid. I'll give you a quick rundown of how I'd solve that problem. I didn't want to talk too long, but I wanted to have something to work with. So say somebody keeps showing up late for raid. We have a problem. Maybe they're a good player. Maybe they're a friend, but we have a problem. We have a problem starting late for raid. Not a good problem for a raid team. 19 people are affected when one person shows up late. Really, in my opinion, not something you can have on a raid team. And the steps of solving that problem are almost universally the same. Number one, identify the problem with the person. Number two, lay out what will solve the problem, i.e., you showing up on time all the time, or we find somebody who can. And then set that limit and enforce that expectation. All right, man, I need you to show up on time to keep you on the raid team. And if you can't show up on time, I'm going to replace you. So the next time you're late, understand we might not be bringing you in for that fight, and we're going to be seeking somebody who can show up on time. Now, they might have a great reason to be late, but if they're consistently late, the raid team's fucked. The raid team each week is going to be frustrated and frustrated and frustrated because 19 people are showing up on time, one person's not. And you know what that develops into when it doesn't get resolved? Toxicity. We start to shit on that person when they come to raid. We start to shit on them in DMs because we're not effectively solving the problem. I believe toxicity is almost exclusively because we're not solving problems effectively. We've never had a situation like this. Bowling teams are gone. Esports teams are in. Every dad I know is also a gamer because we grew up with Nintendo. We grew up with SNES. We grew up as the internet was fucking expanding. And now it is our outlet, it's our social sphere, and we're intermingling with 20-year-olds who have never had a social structure like us and have only had the social structure of the internet, and we got dysfunction fucking everywhere. We have the lowest level of responsibility in people ever. When it comes to work, when it comes to their households, people are doing worse and worse in a lot of cases. My biggest issue when I supervised people in the workplace was getting them to show up to work. Hands down, biggest fucking issue. Getting them to do their job, secondary issue, also an issue. But it was hardest to get people to reliably come in, and then even harder to get them to reliably do a job, meet standards. This is a huge fucking problem, and if we don't apply some problem solving to this issue, we're gonna have toxicity, and that is the legitimate outcome. Toxicity in the home, toxicity in the workplace, toxicity in WoW, toxicity. I'm sure, like most people on the planet right now, relationships are strained in everybody's local fucking environments, local sphere, and it's not just because tough shit's happened. It's also because we don't have any fucking problem solving strategies about that. So as I embrace different aspects of leadership and move forward, I want to address that nagging frustration dynamic to a raid environment. I want to address that in my own relationships, if you will, like the different ways that that plays out. But when it comes to WoW, when it comes to accomplishing my goals in this social sphere, in this world, I like real problem solving. When it comes to a guild, a raid, how we progress, I want real problem solving. I'm willing to, put shit on the line to get there for sure too. I got strategies, I got ideas, but if WoW can become toxic, because it didn't always play out like this, it didn't always look like this. If it can become toxic by bad leadership, then it can get better by good leadership. I've talked to a lot of people who want better raid environments. They want better, progress. They want better people to spend time with. And I believe all of that is obtainable if we will practically work together. I got 100 different ideas about how to walk that out, but ultimately I wanted to say, if WoW can get worse by toxic people, it can get better by better leadership. So